Welcome to the UFC 253 Adesanya vs. Costa fight breakdown on the 3-Piece Combo MMA show, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Today, we're going to go ahead and do a fight breakdown between the main event of this Saturday's fight on UFC 253, Adesanya vs. Paulo Costa for the middleweight title. Now, we're also going to do a keys to victory, so we're going to take a both look, just see what really they need to do in this fight to really pull out this dub, and we'll make a prediction. We'll see who's going to end up on top at the end. Now, this is a really good fight. You have two undefeated fighters. You have Adesanya coming in 19-0, 75-5 pro kickboxing record, and then you have Paulo Costa 13-0, 12 of those being finishes. This one has been boiling for a while now, since August of 2019. So this has actually been a long time in the works. Costa actually had a torn bicep, which put him out for a couple months. He tried to get some fake doctor in Brazil to sign off a note and give it to Dana White to fight Adesanya sooner. But obviously Dana White was smarter to know that was a fake note. But these guys have been going at it for a while now. There's obviously no love lost in between these two. It's not necessarily bad blood, but they absolutely don't like each other, and they want to rip each other's heads off. Now, we're going to take a deeper look into Adesanya's game first, and we're going to go ahead and see what makes up Adesanya 19-0, 75-5 as a kickboxer, and only in his going on his 100th bout, only has gotten knocked out once in his boxing or his kickboxing and MMA career. His main weapon going into every fight that he uses is actually not his striking initially, but his feints. Now, his feints are as good as his shots, the actual punches and kicks that he throws. And by using these feints to such a key level of detail and paying high attention to making his fakes look like his real shots, he's able to draw out his opponent's defenses and reactions. Now, by using these feints, he'll see how they're going to guard. Let's say he's throwing a body kick. How are they going to guard the body kick? Are they going to drop their hands? Because now if they're going to drop their hands, they have a wide open head to throw to. So you'll fake the body kick and then go to the head. But for him, he's almost like the Dwayne Wade of the UFC. His feints are like his pump fakes. Now, if you have somebody who's not as good at feinting, if Ben Simmons is going to try to pull up from 3, you're not going to bite on that pump fake. But if somebody makes their shot, like D. Wade, makes their shot look like they're actually going to take it, you're going to get the opponent to jump. And if you don't get him to jump and you're actually throwing that shot, you're going to have an uncontested lane right to the rib. So you don't want to not jump and not play defense when they're actually throwing these shots, because then you're going to get knocked out. By using these feints to such a high level, he keeps his opponents off guard and guessing, because now they don't know what he's going to actually throw and what's actually he's going to fake. So by doing this over the course of a fight, you mess with your opponent's reads, so now they can't read you. And the main way an opponent is going to throw a shot is by taking a risk assessment. Am I going to throw this shot? What are they going to counter? And am I going to be able to throw this shot whilst taking this counter, or should I stay away from that punch? By Adesanya not letting him know what the actual counter is going to be or what shots he's actually going to throw, he keeps his opponent off guard, and he really messes up a lot of people's striking. So that's one of the main things that he's really so good at when he's fighting, and that's why he's only been knocked out once in going into his 100th fight right now, and he's won 95 of them. So pretty good with the feints. When it comes to Adesanya's striking, he really has a diverse toolkit. He's really good with a jab. He'll keep that as a range checker. He'll keep the jab, keeping his opponent at check. He has good left hooks, good body kicks, good head kicks, leg kicks. If he has a taller or a shorter person against him, being 6'4", if you get in the clinch, he'll throw the high knee up the center. And as a former pro kickboxer, that striking is as sharp as it gets. He does a really good job mixing up what he's going to throw. He throws a lot of leg kicks. He keeps his opponent at bay with his leg kicks. He has a reach advantage on almost everybody. So for him, he throws these leg kicks at such a high clip. Over his last 5 fights, he's clipped leg kicks at about a 89% rate. So he's not missing on these leg kicks. And over the course of his career, he's a pretty accurate striker overall. By using those feints that we talked about earlier, he's able to just pick the shots that he wants to and not have to worry about anything else. If you look at his body shot percentage over his UFC career, he's looking at about 75%. So 3 out of 4 shots that he's taking is landing to the body. 9 out of 10 shots that he's taking to the legs are landing. And he headhunts at about a 45% rate. So almost 50% for your head strike rate. So he's landing overall at roughly about a 75-80% rate on all of his strikes. And by doing this, he's able to just pick you apart slowly. Adesanya is not one, except for the Robert Whittaker fight, Adesanya is not one to necessarily knock you out in one punch. He'll do it over time. He'll soften up that chin, he'll soften up that body, and unless he's catching you with a hook, he's not really going to go for the knockout every punch. He's just going to outwork you over the course of the fight. He's going to jab, switch stance, throw the left hook, throw a body kick, throw a leg kick, get out the way of anybody trying to push. And he does such a good job of that, and just such a good job of keeping the fight at his range and keeping the fight at his distance. He's almost taller than everybody in the division at 6'4". And on top of that, he has such a good leg reach and such good footwork. He's able to manage the distance and keep it well. And that'll actually get us into our next point. Another thing he does really well is change stances. Now, he'll do this throughout the fight. He'll switch up from orthodox to southpaw, changing which hand is the actual power hand. And he'll actually do this in a way to close distance. He'll start with a orthodox stance, and to just close distance, he'll pivot and switch where his lead foot is and go into a southpaw stance. And by doing this, he doesn't actually have to take a step directly forward into his opponent. He's kind of going around in a way to his opponent. So it keeps his opponent off guard, because now you have to circle the other way and change the way you play defense. And if you have a power hand, you have to change up where that power hand is going to have to go to hit those strikes. And you have different power shots when you're fighting an orthodox versus a southpaw. So you're going to have to change up what you're going to do. So by doing this, he does this in such a way to close the distance in such an unusual manner. It changes up what setups his opponents had in mind. So now they don't know what to throw. So with the stance change, another thing he does is that he still keeps the jab on bay. So no matter what hand he is, he'll throw the jab and he'll throw the leg kick. He'll make sure he keeps those two, because those two are what manages his distance. So by using those two, he'll make sure that he's always at the distance to where he avoids the power shots, and he's only able to land what he wants to land. Now, as great as he is on striking, of course, he does have some weaknesses in a game. So we're going to take a look at a couple of weaknesses that Costa can try to use to his advantage. Now, when he's backpedaling, when he's fighting, he does a lot on the back foot. He'll really move backwards a lot, because he is a defensive fighter. He's a counter striker. But what he does is he'll back into the fence, fake his way left, and then he'll duck really low to the right and go out to the right. Now, if he does that, for most of the time, he'll be able to stay fine. But if his opponent throws a body hook that's aimed to throws a left hook that's aimed to the body, if he's going to the right, he's going to catch him right on the chin, because he's ducking down at body height. And Kelvin Gastelum actually caught him. Well, not caught him, but he threw those shots during their fight, knowing when he got Adesanya to the cage that he's going to get that shot. So that's one thing that Adesanya has to really watch out for, especially with the power of Paulo Costa. Now, another thing that he does that you can take a look at is when he throws the right hook, if you slip that right hook, you can get an inside range and can counter that. Now, that's going to have to be when Adesanya is fighting at a southpaw stance, because Costa is an orthodox fighter. But what he's going to want to do is slip that right hook, and if you can get inside that range, you can definitely catch Adesanya. Gastelum was able to really do it more than a lot of people, was see where those weaknesses were. He won 2 rounds, and by doing those things and keeping Adesanya closer at distance, he was able to win those rounds. Now, Adesanya is great with his footwork, his striking, his pace, his defense. Among active UFC fighters, he's tied for second in knockdowns, landed with 10 in the middleweight division, with top 10 in strike percentage. So he's really good when it comes to, his striking. And defensively, it makes him so hard to hit because with his footwork, on top of his opponent not being able to know what he's going to do, he's also in this fight 6'4" with a 3-inch advantage. Obviously, Paulo Costa 6'1", 8-inch reach advantage, and also a 5-inch leg reach advantage. So by using his footwork, he manages his distance, and he does it perfectly. Now, with such sharpened tools in the tool shed, as well as the defense that makes him elusive, as well as much as anybody has been, the champ is going into Saturday with a lot in his arsenal to pull out and get this win. Now let's get into Paulo Costa a little bit. Continuing with him, it was a bit tough to get a lot of footage with him just because of how dominant he's been. With 13-0, 12 of those have been finishes that are all in the first round or within the first half of the second round. So for Costa, there's really two main components to his game. It's his pressure, and then it's his power. Now, when he applies the pressure, he's usually able to corner his opponent. Now, once he's able to cut off the ring, now's where he puts his opponent in trouble. At this point, Costa usually releases just a barrage of blows because his opponent can't back up anymore. And when you see a guy like that coming to you, you'll want to back up. Now, when he gets into the cage, he'll unleash that barrage of blows varying to body shots. He'll throw head kicks. He'll throw right overhands, left hooks. And this is where he seemingly loves to just throw it all at the fence and hope something sticks. And he'll land a high clip of them. This is where he'll go for his heaviest volumes of strikes. And from here is where he has the highest chance of winning this fight. Now, in addition to that power, he has like a steel chin. Now, Yoel Romero was able to get a knockdown on him, but you could barely call that a knockdown. It was more a half second and he popped right back up. Now, being able to close the distance and stay in the range of your opponent's strikes and be able to throw ones that are twice as hard, that's something that's going to put you in the winning edge of things most times. And for all of Paulo Costa's career, that's what's been happening. He averages about 50 to 70 strikes per round, and he'll land them at about a 57 clip. But whilst doing that, he'll also take in 35 shots per round. Now, with him, since he has such a steel chin, he does a good job of eating these shots. And since his fights don't go deep, he'll only average absorbing less than 50. For most of his fights, probably even less than that. Now, this shows you that he's willing to take the punches and to continue to walk you down while you're punching him in the face. Once he corners you, even if he's taken 20 shots to the face, he knows that it's his turn, and he's going to come at you smiling. Now, using this same strategy, Paulo Costa has won 13 in a row without losing and knocking out all but one of his opponents in the first half of the fights. Like Adesanya, he is undefeated, but his games does have some openings that we could take a look at and see that could be capitalized on. Now, when he's throwing that right overhand, he leaves his left hand slightly down. You can see right here, when he throws his right overhand, this left hand is actually quite low. So if you're able to slip that right overhand and throw a left hook, you're going to be able to catch him, and it's going to be a good left hook because he's fully overextended and his chin isn't as tucked as you can tuck your chin with that hand being down. The second thing we see with Costa is this turtle shell defense that he has. Now, by doing this, he does do a good job of keeping his chin away from the looping shots, the ones that'll catch your chin, but it leaves him open right down the middle. And he kind of lives a little bit of spot to where if you catch that uppercut, like Yoel Romero did, you're not going to last very long, especially if you're taking those shots consistently overnight. And for him, it always allow the straight rights and the jabs. They always come through that defense. And even when he's fighting on the, when he's not turtling up, he'll always allow these straight rights and these jabs to get past his defense. Now, for him, he's probably just used to not fighting guys that can throw that many straight rights to knock him out. So he's probably not afraid of it. But for him, if he's going to continue to eat these shots all night against someone like Adesanya, who throws these straight rights and throws these jabs all night long, it's not going to work out well for him, because you're giving the guy exactly what he wants. You're going to give him the jab, you're going to give him the straight right, and over time, he's going to break it down, and it's just going to crumble. Now, Costa, he's undefeated for a reason. With the power like what he has and the ability to eat a shot, it's hard to avoid him for long because he'll take the shots and he'll continue to come. Now, his defense is set up to where he eats the smaller shots like the jabs, like the straights, and he stays away from the looping ones. But like we said, he hasn't faced much resistance till he fought Yoel Romero. So it'll be very intriguing to see how he matches up with Adesanya. Now, Costa is a dog. He's definitely a future top 5 contender for the next few years, even if he doesn't win this belt. His abilities to corner his opponent and deliver those devastating shots, mixing it up to the body, to the head, it makes his standing game terrifying. So, and his body and head kicks are also a key part of his game. So, by doing this and mixing it up, softening the body, it drops his opponent's guard, and now he's able to headhunt, and that's when you get those knockouts. Now, let's look at some keys to victory that'll really, if the fighters do this, they should have the edge going into this weekend's title fight. Now, for Adesanya, his first key is going to be his defense. He's going to have to stay out of the range of Paulo Costa and make sure that he avoids the power of Paulo Costa. Obviously, that's the easier said than done, but that's going to be his main focus for this fight, is really playing defense the entire fight. Now, this is something that obviously Adesanya is used to doing. He always fights defensively. So for him, this should be something that he's able to do pretty well. Now, the second thing that he should definitely do is something we talked about already. Use those rights and use those straight jabs to break the turtle defense of Costa. Now, if he's able to land these overnight, you're definitely going to see a swollen face Paulo Costa. He's a pretty boy coming in, but I don't think he's going to be one leaving this fight. Now, the last thing I think Izzy needs to do is continue to work the leg of Paulo Costa. This is his first 5-round fight in the UFC. So for him, if he continues to work the leg, maybe first or second round, it won't bother him like it hasn't when other fighters have fought him. But going into the third and fourth round, if he keeps landing those leg kicks, they're going to eventually cause him to crumble. Now, for Costa, 3 keys for him. The first one is going to be understand how Adesanya is going to escape out of high-volume exchanges and try to catch him on the exits. Now, for Acosta, he does a good job throwing high volume. He'll throw a lot of shots every round, about 50 to 70. But for Adesanya, for Costa, since he knows Adesanya is going to try to be on the back foot and escape out of those heavy barrage of shots, he needs to know what is Adesanya going to do while escaping that is going to allow him to catch him. Kelvin Gastelum was able to catch Adesanya on exits many times in the fight when they had the interim middleweight fight between Adesanya and Gastelum. He was able to catch him on a lot of exits. So Costa is really going to have to make sure he pays high attention to detail and know where Adesanya is going to try to leave from. Now, the second thing for him is going to be continue to use his power. That's obviously his number one strength. You don't want to get away from what you're using and play to the strengths of the other guy. Continue to use that power, continue to step forward, and make sure that he delivers shots that are heavy, which shouldn't be too hard for him. And the last thing, which I think will be the hardest for him, is over the 25 minutes, is keep the fight at his range. If he's able to keep the fight closer where he's able to land shots, that's where he'll be key in this fight. Now, we know Adesanya is good defensively and his footwork is great. But for Costa, he's going to have to back Adesanya up to the fence and really try to make this fight a close-range fight. Now, how I see the fight going down, I see Costa coming out in the first and second rounds and throwing as much as he can. I don't see Adesanya coming in very aggressive, other than maybe the leg kicks and the jabs in the first 2 rounds, because those are his staple. But other than that, I'm going to see Paulo Costa come out in the first and 2 rounds and really try to throw heavy shots. Now, as Costa is throwing these shots, I do think Adesanya is going to be able to avoid most of them. And I think the ones that he does let get through, I can't say that I won't knock him out, but it's not a very high likelihood. So what's more likely to happen is Adesanya will stay at his range, be able to keep Costa at his distance where he wants to fight, and be able to slowly wear him down with the jab and the leg kick in the first and second rounds. Now, going into the third round, this is where I see Adesanya really starting to turn it up because we've seen Costa start to slow down a little bit when he was fighting Yoel Romero, and that was his first 3-round fight. So now we're going to see where he gets to as his first 5-round fight. Obviously, just going into the 3rd round for now. But going to the 3rd round, we see Costa slow down. So we'll see Adesanya start to hit more strikes here. And this is where I see Costa really hit the decline as far as what he's throwing and the precision that he's throwing at. I think that he's going to get a little bit more wild here. And going into the 4th, Adesanya is going to be able to pick him up and drop him eventually. And I'm going to say Adesanya, 4th round TKO. Now, the reason I'm picking Izzy is simply because I believe he's the more technically talented striker, as well as the advantages he has in the reach department. Being able to use his footwork in such a unique way and fight at his length, that's going to be able to keep somebody like Paulo Costa, who needs to be in that range to deliver the power, out of his range. Not a lot of fighters that face Paulo Costa are as tall as him or physically imposing as him. So Adesanya is really an outlier as far as the people that Paulo Costa has fought. And by using that footwork and making sure that Costa doesn't deliver the power shots and being able to read his defense by setting up with his feints and using his jabs and his right hook or his straight rights, I think Adesanya is slowly going to wear Paulo Costa down, and that eventually, over the course of the fight, he's going to eventually finish Paulo Costa. Thanks for watching the UFC 253 fight breakdown between Paulo Costa and Israel Adesanya on the 3-Piece Combo MMA show, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Jonathan, and I hope you guys enjoy the fight Saturday.